Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Valero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys, demanding defunding of the IRS because taxpayers matter.
Yeah, nice sign, isn't it?
Thank you, Craig. Nice sign.
Yep, great. So, let's do our normal beginning of the...
our normal. So, well, I'm pleased to report, and at the same time disgusted to report, that the Congress critters are back to their old ways. Last time we checked Congress.gov, there were like 22 proposals.
Yeah.
Now there's 124.
Oh, I checked this morning, 163.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
163.
Well, I got 120. You must have looked. Oh, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Anyways,
but there's one here that's going into the 2021 Tax Proposal Hall of Shame. And I know you get on me if I take too much time here, so we're going to boogity through these. At the top of the list, H.R. 1019. This is to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a credit for the purchase of, wait for it, certain new electric bicycles.
Oh.
I kid you not. That's what it says. You get a tax credit if you purchase certain. I guess that means only ones produced by a particular company that's donating to one side or the other.
Yeah.
Certain new electric bicycles. I mean, they used to give you a tax credit for buying electric cars, and then I think they took that away. They're always messing with it. They take it away, they'll reduce it, they'll put it back up. But now if you buy an electric bicycle, which I've never seen, by the way, I've seen ones with little motors on them, but never electric ones. But you can get a tax credit for buying an electric bicycle.
Yeah, my son-in-law has one. If my son-in-law, if it has a motor on it, he buys it. All right, and it's a bicycle, but it has a small electric motor and a built-in battery. Oh. And you know, when you start pedaling, it kicks in the motor, so it assists.
Helps you a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a car that worked like that. The electric kicked in to assist the gas engine, but whatever. Now this is the one that's going in the Hall of Shame that we will review again at the end of the year. H.R. 933 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to remove short-barreled rifles from the definition of firearms. Get that. If this thing passes, the tax code of the United States will declare that certain rifles are not firearms for the purposes of the National Firearms Act and for other purposes. Why don't they just amend the National Firearms Act instead of the Internal Revenue Code to define what a short-barreled, what a firearm is and whether a short-barreled rifle qualifies?
Just more examples of people in Congress using the tax code to reach into every aspect of American life. I mean, Bob has read so many different proposals here, and every one of them seeks to modify our lives somehow. The tax code is there primarily to collect revenue for the federal government. That should be the beginning and end of it. But no.
But what kind of idiot do you have to be to believe that short-barreled rifles are not firearms?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the purpose of that is.
That's why that one goes in the Hall of Shame. We'll revisit that one at the end of the year. A couple more real quick. H.R. 928 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to make the child tax credit fully refundable. Let's just hand out some more money willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And establish an increased child tax credit for young children and for other purposes. Now, how crazy is that?
How about we go to the fair tax and not tax people's income? All right,
mercy. Yeah,
just get the economy roaring, create millions of jobs, create wealth for the average American, and then they can take care of their families without Congress meddling in their family affairs. Mm-hmm. How's that for an idea?
That sounds like a really good one. And this sounds like this sounds like a good idea, but I'm not so sure that you want to use the tax code to do this. Last one for this show, H.R. 894 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to deny tax-exempt status for bonds issued by sanctuary jurisdictions. That means that San Francisco municipal bonds will not be tax deductible if this passes, which there's no way that's going to get through this Congress.
No.
But that's what they're trying to do, to again, pick winners and losers.
Oh, boy.
So the senator this is Representative Matthew Rosendale of Montana. If he has his way, the loser is the sanctuary jurisdiction that issues municipal bonds.
Yeah.
So I guess the ones from Arkansas would be okay, and the ones from San Francisco wouldn't. But.
Yeah, so it's a way of fighting these sanctuary cities.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, is a noble goal. But I'm not so sure the tax code is how you should do that.
Yeah, that's not the place for it.
Oh, we got some more goodies here. We'll get to those on the next episode of FairTax Power Radio next week. But
Yep.
did I go fast enough for you? Can we move on?
Yeah, that was better. I mean, last time we took up almost a third of our show. Well, because Bob just loves this. He just loves getting into Congress.gov.
But I think one of the strongest arguments you can make for the fair tax is by illustrating how insanely absurd the system we have now is.
Yep, and Congress.gov is a good place to do that.
And
As a reminder, you go to Congress.gov, and in the search bar you put in quotes Internal Revenue Code. That brings up most of the bills that have to do with changing our tax code. And I calculated it by the congressional calendar, and I got 163 bills submitted, and they're up to 7.1. Now that includes days that they're calling committee work. I guess the full House is not in session.
Well, everything
but all the
goes
committees
through
are.
committees anyway.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got 7.1 proposals per day that to change the tax code. All right, and with the fair tax, all that nonsense goes away.
Yes.
So,
all right. Now, speaking about nonsense in the tax code, that brings us right over to an article that you found that you want to get into.
Let me just remind people to get information about the Chairman's Report, the Grassroots Corner, and the latest episode of FairTax Power Radio. One of the places, you go to fairtax.org, and you go up to the news button, all right? And when the news button turns red, you click it, and it takes you to a page with all those things on it. So that's a good way to keep abreast of news pertaining to tax reform. But you'll also notice a brand new item, all right? The drop down, when you hover over news, you get the FairTax Guys, which will take you to the FairTax Guys page on fairtax.org. And there's a new item that I noticed for the first time yesterday or the day before, press releases. Paul Livingston in Jacksonville here in Florida periodically writes press releases and sends them out all over the country. And he finally got them filed to the right person, and they've got them on fairtax.org. So there's lots of good information on fairtax.org, and it helps you keep abreast, and it helps you keep be a more informed supporter of the fair tax. Okay?
Good deal.
Yeah.
Now, so get to this absolutely insane article that you came up with. This, I mean, if this wasn't so serious, it'd be funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's from Judicial Watch.
Yep.
And you talk about how the IRS can be weaponized against political opponents, whichever party's in power, they can weaponize the IRS against their political opponents, and that is what this is all about. It's unbelievable.
As Bob said, it's on the Judicial Watch website, January 29th. Senator on panel that oversees IRS asks the tax agency to strip conservative group of nonprofit status over COVID-19 super spreader events. Where do we begin?
Which, by definition, only occur at conservative events.
Yeah, apparently.
You know, all of the riots, all the protests, all the stuff supporting left-wing causes where you got thousands of people in close proximity with no mask, and they're shouting and screaming and all that. That doesn't do it. COVID-19 knows to stay away from that much.
Yeah.
So, right. Okay, go ahead.
So he's on the panel. What
senator is this? Does it say?
Yeah, let me see here.
Scroll down.
Anyways, he's trying to, he or she, let me find out who it is. Okay, so I don't see the name here. Anyways.
Okay. They're trying to protect the guilty, huh?
Reminiscent of the Obama Internal Revenue Service's witch hunt of conservative groups, that was back in 2010, 2012, and so forth, when Lois Lerner and her group, they were responsible for giving tax-exempt status, and they slow-walked all the events, all the groups that had like Patriot or Conservative or Constitution in their names, and they slow-walked all that. That was quite quite a scandal back then. Well, this guy wants to do it again. You know?
Why do we even have tax-exempt organizations? That doesn't happen under the fair tax, folks.
No,
you don't
need it.
It's at the retail level. You pay it at the cash register. End of story. You don't have to register as tax exempt organizations, because nobody's exempt. Every retail purchase of new goods and services, you pay the fair tax. End of story.
So, it goes on here. A U.S. senator who sits on the committee that oversees the tax agency is pushing it to revoke a student charity's nonprofit status. Yeah, it's Turning Point, which is an organization of students. Actually, my grandson is a member. Okay,
it's Charlie Kirk's group, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The veteran lawmaker, Rhode Island Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse, says conservative student organization Turning Point USA should lose its nonprofit status because it held large events that could help spread COVID. Could help spread. All right, so this guy is trying to use the IRS to target his political opponents. He doesn't want the young people being introduced to conservative values because, he's on the other side of the aisle. And this goes both ways. We've seen people on both sides of the aisle try to use or sometimes successfully use the IRS to target their political opponents. This is one more example. The tax code, as I said, and I'll say again, first and last should be there to collect revenues for the government. But what else do they want? I mean, they're weaponizing the IRS is what they're trying to do.
And that's dangerous. That's something that everybody on both sides should want to see gone, because side A is shooting at side B today, and later side B can shoot back at side A, whichever one you happen to be on. Yeah. So if you think weaponizing the IRS is a good idea against your opponents, look out, because there are people that would want to use it against you.
That's right.
Nobody should support that. We need to, and there's only one way to fix that.
And that's right. Get rid of the
IRS. Just get rid of it. Eliminate that criminal enterprise from the face of the earth. There's only one way to do that.
That's
Get rid of the income tax that it is charged with administering and enforcing, and there's only one way to do that. Now, pass the fair tax. There we go.
But wait a minute. Some people say that if we go to a flat tax, we won't need the IRS.
Flat tax, right here. This is my little Rubik's Cube representing the flat tax. If you're listening to one of the audio-only podcasts or one of the radio stations, you need to go to FAIRtaxGuys.com, look at the video here. But the flat tax will stay flat for about 18 milliseconds before the lobbyists come in there and they want to try to that is the lobbyists' full employment act if they go to a flat tax. And we've done this before. We went to we didn't go to a completely flat tax, but the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, that long ago, was when it was rather significantly flattened out. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. It would be interesting to see the number of pages in the tax code in 1986 versus the number of pages in the tax code today. It's probably about 4 or 5 times bigger than it was.
It's at least 3 times larger now.
So it doesn't stay flat.
No, it doesn't.
As long as you're taxing income.
That's right.
As long as you're doing that, you're still going to have withholding, you're still going to have the IRS, you're still going to have tax returns, you're still going to have audits. Getting a flat rate does not fundamentally change the way the system works. It's still taxing income through the IRS. We need to change the system by getting rid of all that garbage and replacing it with a fair tax.
Yeah, let's remind people that people in Congress love the complexity of the income tax. And they love the fact that most of the changes are not transparent. The general public doesn't see these. Bob has just read off a few of the many, over 150 proposals to change the tax code so far this year. And Congress just loves that. They keep making these proposals. They keep making it more complicated because the lobbyists keep coming and giving them campaign cash.
Yeah, we probably need to revisit something we did on Fair Tax Power Radio a while back, going out to I think it's opensecrets.org, the name of the website there.
Oh, yeah.
And look in and just see how many lobbyists there are and how much money they're spending. And you'd find lobbyists from, say, I remember Boeing, the commercial aircraft maker. They were lobbying stuff that had absolutely nothing to do with the travel or anything that the commercial aviation would be involved
Yeah, they were
in.
lobbying for COVID-19 legislation.
They were I don't remember the details, but I do remember that there were corporations lobbying bills that had absolutely nothing to do with their primary business. So we may need to go back in there before long and kind of update those figures. Let's get a little further into the legislative session and do that.
There's one thing I want to remind people. Last week we had an extended interview with Steve Hayes, and it was mostly about the VAT tax. So when we're talking about complexity of the income tax, okay, that's bad enough. But we've got people in Congress who are salivating at the idea of adding a VAT tax to the income tax, okay, value added tax. I'm not going to go into, take a look at last week's episode because we went into detail. And it's very important that you stay abreast of this stuff, because to give Congress a VAT tax and an income tax is a very bad idea.
Yes, if I ever see that introduced on Congress.gov, we'll know about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, because it's very complicated, and it's behind the scenes. It is not transparent, and it is prone to evasion, just like the income tax. So you've got serious problems with a VAT tax as you do with an income tax. But there are members of Congress who love the idea.
I was amazed when Steve said last week that there is an entire industry in some of these VAT tax countries that exists solely to evade the VAT tax, and you never think of evasion and a consumption tax in the same sentence, but the way the VAT tax is applied and administered, I can see that. But the fair tax, a retail consumption tax, it's applied at the retail level only, not at every step of production along the way.
Right.
It's applied at the all of those taxes fall down to the retail customer anyway. So let's just put them all at one place that the retail customer will pay it at the cash register on new goods and services and be done with it.
Yep. And all those taxes ended up, all costs of doing business are borne by the consumer.
Yes.
I mean, whether it's raw materials, labor, electricity, taxes, and tax compliance costs, it all ends up in the consumer's lap.
What happens when jet fuel prices go up? The price of airline tickets goes up. That's a cost to do it. So what happens if you put a lot of taxes on the airline industry? They raise their prices, and that works for every industry across the board.
And I can tell you, as a former truck driver, when the fuel taxes were out of sight, there was a fuel surcharge that was added to each load. All right, when we got a load offer with how much it was paying us, there was a fuel tax surcharge that was added to that. The customer paid for that, and their consumers paid for that.
The customer pays for it. Yes,
that's right. So every time. Okay.
You found another article over there too that was pretty cool. Again, noble cause, but we're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, and this was on one of the email blasts that AFFT sends out. It was either on an additional item on a chairman's report or Grassroots Corner or one of the FAIRtax Guys emails that they send out. All right, lawmakers request help for taxpayers victimized by unemployment fraud. People don't have enough to worry about with this pandemic. People losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, losing their businesses, some cases losing their home. But now, when they apply for unemployment, there's fraud going on. People are trying to take advantage of them.
Yes.
It's a terrible situation.
Identity thieves they'll steal your tax refund. We've seen that happen. There's nothing an identity thief won't take from you if he can, and your unemployment benefits is right up there on the list.
So, Republican lawmakers are asking the Biden administration to help taxpayers who are receiving tax forms for unemployment benefits claimed by identity thieves.
So the identity thief gets the benefits and you get the tax bill.
Yeah, exactly.
What's wrong with that system?
Apparently, it looks like official documentation. And the poor, unsuspecting taxpayer fills it out and sends it in. Now the fraudster has their information and files to get a return. And then the next time this person tries to file their own return, the IRS says, "Oh, you already filed a return, and we sent you a nice fat rebate, refund."
Yeah, that's like showing up at the polls and being told that you've already voted by mail.
Yeah. Jeez.
Okay, not going any farther down that road.
It's just terrible, and the fraud is available, is part of the income tax, it's part of the evasion problem, it's part of the fraud problem, and it goes away with the fair tax. How do you defraud a sales tax?
That's really hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
It takes two people to do it.
That's
It only
right.
takes one to try to avoid and defraud the income tax. But if you're trying to evade and defraud a sales tax that's levied at the retail level like the fair tax is, you have to have the retailer, the vendor, try to help you.
That's right.
And the fair tax is set up so that the vendor is incentivized to collect the tax. He gets to keep a very small percentage of what he collects.
Yep.
So if he tries to help you evade the tax, he's cutting his own throat. He's reducing his own bottom line. That's not going to.
Yeah, and he's running the risk that he can go to jail too, because that is illegal.
Because there are a lot fewer reporting points or audit points. And instead of auditing every single taxpayer that files a return, now you're only dealing with the number of vendors. And what is it, like 90% of retail sales take place at like 10% of the stores? There's a statistic along that line. I'm not sure I've got that exactly right.
Not only that, a lot of sales go from one company to another. This company sells parts to that company that they incorporate into their product. So actually, a lot of businesses don't sell at the retail level. They sell it, business to business, okay? So there's like 160 million taxpayers, individuals and businesses, and about 20 million businesses. Yeah, it's
retail businesses.
Retail businesses, yes, retail businesses. So yes, the fair tax is a lot easier to keep track of. The states will collect the tax, all right? It's collected by the vendor, passed on to the state, passed on from the state to the federal government. 45 of the 50 states have a sales tax. They know how to do this, and they know how to look for fraud, okay? So getting away with this stuff is not very easy.
Indeed, it is not. We got about 6 minutes left, and I know you wanted to get to some nice little comments that some feedback that we've gotten back.
Yeah, let me find those here. We got one from it was a comment on YouTube to our last episode from Jeffrey Locke, and it's a comment of support, and I appreciate Jeffrey doing this. Only the fair tax maximizes the GDP. Okay, GDP growth transparently through retail consumption only, saving Social Security and Medicare, which it does. By doing so, HR 25 is what we need, and go to the FAIRtax store, fairtaxstore.org, all right, and purchase promotional materials to pass the FAIRtax Act. Jeffrey, thank you for putting that on YouTube. Hopefully other people will see it and see your support for the fair tax. We truly appreciate that, and we always like comments from our listeners. And then we got a question from Kenneth Hollifield. Has HR 25 been introduced in this Congress yet? Yep. It was introduced on July 4th, the day after they were all sworn in.
We got a new primary sponsor, though.
Yep. Buddy Carter. I think he's in District 1 of Georgia. 1. Yep. It's in the Savannah area. I think. I'm not sure about that, but anyway.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
But Buddy Carter is the new co-sponsor, and I checked before the show here. There are now 17 co-sponsors along with Congressman Carter, and we need more.
Absolutely.
We need more co-sponsors, and we're still looking for a primary sponsor in the Senate, and we here in Florida are going to do a little arm twisting.
Yeah. We'll see if we can. Rick Scott has always been, making public statements in support of the fair tax. He'll tell you if you ask him, "Oh, I really like it." Okay, well let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's see a little action instead of just words. So
I think he would be a natural for this.
I think he would. Yeah. Then again, if you've got a comment or a question about the fair tax, we love getting questions about the fair. And let me mention, as long as the questions go, if you've got a question you'd like to see Jade Wiley attack.
Yeah,
I tell you, maybe we originally were thinking that we just kind of pick one and let him ask it. Maybe we can just pick them all and throw him on, and pick one person to zoom in if we can.
Yeah.
But if somebody's going to take the time to write us and give us a question, we should at least give them the courtesy of an answer and let Jay just take off on all of them. So if you've got a question you'd like to see Jade Wiley take on in his next Wiley's Fair Tax World on Fairtax Power Radio, send it to us at the FairtaxGuys.com, and we'll make sure that he gets it.
Yeah, we've incorporated Wally's FAIRtax World as a special edition every 3 months of FAIRtax Power Radio. It's working out very well. It's getting much more circulation than it used to, so that's good. And Jade is so knowledgeable about CPA stuff and the fair tax. So.
Don't try stump the CPA; it won't work.
No, he's very sharp. Okay, so let's see. Go to fairtax.org, which we've mentioned, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a place for you to input your information so you can get updates. We strongly recommend you, and if you feel like it, donate, because it is a national organization. They do have expenses, sizable expenses every month to maintain a national organization, and they could use your help. Okay?
Yeah, it costs money to maintain the database. I mean, we have to buy services. Political Media, we've talked about them. That is the organization that hosts our website, that does our database services. And even though I would love to say that they are donating their services, they're not. I mean, they can't do that. They have to stay in business. But even though no person who's working with or for AFFT gets paid, there are considerable things that need to be covered.
Yep. And don't forget PopVox, POPVOX.com. That's a website you can go to, and you sign in with your name and address, because then they know what your congressional district is, who your representative and 2 senators are, and you can weigh in on any pending legislation, such as H.R. 25, and you can make comment. You can say whether you're in favor or everybody's in favor watching this show, so yeah, you're in favor. All right. And you can make comments, and your comments will go to your representative, and when we get a sponsor in the Senate, that bill will be in there also. Probably won't be S25, but it'll be some. Senate does things differently.
But make note of the fact that if you commented on H.R. 25 earlier during the 116th Congress or any one of the previous ones, all of those comments are wiped clean. The new Congress that started again in this January, we've had a little over a month in session. So you need to go back and re-up on PopVox if you're a supporter.
Yep. And if the spirit moves you, write letters to the editor in your local paper. That's great. You don't have to be an expert. If you're just getting introduced to the fair tax and you really like the idea, that's all you have to say, right? Just let people know.
Pick one aspect of it and develop it. Don't try to go through the whole thing in 300 words. It's just not going to work. Join the 1040 Club if you can. That's pledging $10.40 a month to get rid of the Form 1040.
Yep.
And that's just about going to wrap it up here for this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank everyone so much for watching and listening on the radio stations and listening on the podcast and whatnot. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, again reminding you, as we always do, that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FAIRtax Guys on social media and their own website, FAIRtaxGuys.com, and check back every week for a new episode of FAIRtax Power Radio.